SIP 9 Hub. In this presentation, I will show you how to use MS Excel in creating the different graphs that we mentioned in the last video. So if you haven't been there, you may go back with the following link before you come back here. But before we continue, do not forget to like this video, hit the subscription and notification bell to stay updated of future videos. Before we go to our different graphs, let me present first to you our Excel interface. For those people who are not yet familiar with this one, this is how an Excel interface looks like. At the very top, we can see the workbook title. I named this Workshop 1 Data Presentation. And just below it is our different menu bar. We have home, insert, page layout, formulas. If I click on it, we could jump on the different menu bars. Each menu bar is comprised of different toolbars. For example, the toolbars for home, we have clipboard, font, alignment, number, style, etc. Anyway, in this video, we will use mostly the insert menu bar, and under the insert menu bar, we will use this toolbar here, charts. But anyway, let's go back and explore first the different parts of an Excel window. This part here is called the name box. This is where we can see the name of a cell. This is our formula bar. This is where we can see the formulas being applied to a particular cell. These are our columns, by default named by our letters. These are our rows. By default, it's named using numbers, so that one intersection of these columns or rows is called a cell. Our workbook is comprised of different sheets. We can see the different sheets at this part. So in my workbook, this present workbook, I have 4 different sheets and I can navigate through them. We have here our navigation bar. This is used to navigate an Excel window, especially for those that have a lot of content. For now, we do not have yet, so it looks like this. We may add another sheet by clicking on this button here, but we do not have to do that for now. We need to remember that before we apply any graph or chart, we'll have to decide first what particular graph are we going to build. For our first example, it is a data on the number of infected, dead, and individuals who recovered from COVID-19 virus. In our first column, we can see here the different countries. Not all countries, but there are several countries included here, starting off with China, and then you have Japan, until Spain. The second column is the number of infected individuals. The third is the number of dead, and then the number of recovered people, recovered patients. And since we are comparing categories, we are simply comparing the categories here, the bar graph is appropriate. So let's go ahead and build our bar graph for the following data. Before we do that, let us first highlight the data, including the headings that we want to show in the graph that we will create. So let us just hold and drag to that space in our Excel window that includes our data. So there we have it. I just highlighted the part that contains the data and the important headings. And then the next step is to go to our insert menu bar. So let's click on that. And then under this menu bar, we proceed to the toolbar charts. We can read it here. It's called charts. And there's a lot of charts that we can choose from. Good thing that we identified first the appropriate graph, and that is bar graph. We can access our bar graph by going here, there. It tells us insert column or bar chart. If we click on that, we have a lot of options. We can choose from 2D columns. We can choose from 2D vertical bar graphs. You can also choose 3D bar graphs, even horizontal ones. But I would like to choose first this graph, a vertical one, a 2D, a two-dimensional vertical bar graph. Let us click on that. And actually, we have already our graph for the data. So we can see here in our graph, let me make it bigger. In our graph, we can see on the x-axis are the different categories. These are our countries. And on the y-axis are numbers. The numbers may represent the number of infected individuals, the number of dead, or the number of recovered patients. That's why we have here, we can see here, a legend, because we have three variables. The blue bars represents our, what do you think? Our infected, it's written here. Our orange bar represents our dead patients, and then the gray one, our recovered patients. So we can actually stop here. This is already a bar graph. We'll just have to put a title here. If we click on our chart, we can observe that it adds another menu bar. It's called chart tools. This is where we can edit our graph. There's a lot that we can do here under the chart tools. We can edit it. We can change the colors. If we click on this part and change the colors here, we can do that. I can even change the design of my bar graph there. But for now, I'm happy with this one. This is my bar graph. We can easily notice that among the countries included here, it's USA, Spain, and even Italy had the highest number of infected individuals. Also, the highest number of recovered patients. In terms of the number of dead patients due to COVID-19, it seems that Italy had the most number. Alright, let us proceed to our next example. The following data is an appropriation of the 2020 budget amounting to 4.1 trillion pesos for the operation of the national government as signed by President Duterte. The data is comprised of two columns. The first column is the sector where the particular budget will be appropriated to, and then corresponding to each sector is the budget. So our unit here is in trillion. So this means that 1.5 trillion will be allocated to education, health, and social protection. 1.20 trillion will be allocated to academic services, and so on, so forth. So again, before we build our chart, let us first identify what chart is appropriate for this data. The appropriate chart is a pie graph or a pie chart, because our main goal here is to show appropriation, and we want to identify which of the sectors had the least appropriation or the highest appropriation. Again, we first highlight our data and then go to insert menu bar. Under charts, we have to look for where we can insert our pie graph. So it's actually easy to look at that because we can see the circle, the icon for a pie graph, which is in itself a pie graph. It says here when we align our cursor here, it says insert pie graph or donut chart, but we do not need donut chart. We only need a pie graph. This is a donut chart. For now, we want our pie graph. We can choose different pie graphs, but let us first apply the simplest one, this one. So if we click on it, it will automatically give us a pie graph. So we could immediately see that education had the highest appropriation. This is the blue one. We are using the legend here. And then next is economic services. This is the orange one. And then the third one, this is DepEd. Here, the lighter blue one. If you think the readers might be confused of the colors that we used, we can actually edit it again. Under our chart tool, we can change the colors of our pie chart. We can actually do it here. There, if we want it bigger. It's boring. We can even change the layout here. So make sure that you click on the graph, and then if we go here, we can change the layout. So this is the first layout. We can have it this way. We can also do it. This is the original one, or as simple as that. So it's up to you to choose from the different layouts. What's important is we are able to communicate with our readers as easily as possible. So for now, I'm going to leave it this way. I think that's better. We can also add data labels under chart element. So it's here. Add chart element. We can add an element in the chart title or data labels. If you want to show the actual data, we can do it here. So it's presently none, so we cannot see the data in our pie chart. But if we choose, say, for example, center, it will write on the center part of each slice the data corresponding to it. Or at the end, you want that outside. So maybe we are going to choose outside. And then we can change the color. But I think this is okay. We can easily see these numbers. We can also change the location of our legend. In our pie chart at present, the legends are located at the right. We can put it on top, to the left, to the bottom. What's missing is a title, a chart title. So that's very important. We need to always put our title. So I'm going to call this 2020 Philippine budget. Let's move on to our next example. What do we have here? It's a lot of data. The researcher wants to roughly know or estimate which of the variables included in his study are related. The key term is the word related. In the first column, we have the different students included in the study. There are how many students? 40. There are 40 students. In the next column, this is their grade in a particular course or subject. The name of the course is Math 21. In Benguet State University, this is Mathematics in the Modern World. The next variable is the BSU admission test score. This is formerly called the BSU qualifying examination. And then the next column is their senior high school general weighted average. What is the appropriate chart that we have to use to show relationship. That is a scatter plot. And why is that again? Because we want to show relationships. How many variables do we have here? We have 3. So we are going to prepare 3 scatter plots. Remember, a scatter plot can only show a relationship between 2 variables. So there are 3 possible pairs of variables that we can relate here. Unless we want to specify which variables are related to the other, then it could be lesser than 3. For now, let us present all. Let's start with the relationship between the first 2 columns, relationship of Math 21 grade and BSU admission test score. Again, we are going to highlight the first 2 columns because this is the part of our data that we want to show in our first scatter plot. So there we have it, the 2 columns. We go to insert menu bar, and then under the different charts, we are going to choose there, insert scatter or bubble chart. Let's click on it. We want scatter plot, so this is where we choose from. We do not want that. We want this one. This is scatter plot. Okay, initially, this is the chart that will pop up. Let us try to organize it first to make it more complete. For example, this is not really the title. This is not all about BSU admission test score, but this is the scatter plot between Math 21 grade and BSU AP. I'm going to take that as a shortcut for BSU admission tests score, that is BSU AP. To provide more information in our scatter plot, we can add an axis label to our 2 axes. For example, in our horizontal axis, it does not tell us really what are these. These are grades, right? We do not actually have, it is impossible to have 0.5. The maximum is 1. So we may want to get rid of this. I will show you how. But first, let us put some axis titles. We click on the chart so that the chart tools will appear. And then we go to add chart, axis title, primary horizontal axis. We start with this one. So in our horizontal axis, we have Math 21 grade. Let us also insert a primary vertical axis. This is our BSU AP test scores. Now, how do we get rid of the part here that we do not want? I want to get rid of 0 and 0.5 because these are not possible Math 21 grades. Let me click on this axis. If we double click on the x-axis, the numbers here, let's do that first. Double click, it will show you this option. And since what we want is to remove these numbers, we can go to this part, axis options, and it will let us edit the minimum or the maximum numbers in our x-axis. So we do not want 0 or 0.5. So maybe we can set our minimum score as 1.0. That is the highest possible score in BSU. So the chart will automatically adjust. The minimum should be 1 and the maximum is whatever maximum grade, the lowest grade that is included in our data. I can change also the color if I want to. For example, I can change it here under chart tools. I can go here and change the design, change the colors here. There, it's automatically changing. But for now, I'd like to change it to this best color here. I want simple, so I'd like to choose black. So there we have it, our first scatter plot. This is yet our first scatter plot. We need to still look at the scatter plot for other variables. For example, Math 21 and Senior High School General Weighted Average. To do that, we repeat the process that we did a while back to include the first column and the third column without the second column. Let us first highlight the first column. I'm just highlighting it, and then hold our control button. Let's hold that, and if we drag the third column, it will not include the second column. So remember, I am holding my control button. Okay, we are now done highlighting. Let's go ahead and insert our scatter plot. So under chart toolbar, let me click on this. It's overlapping with the second scatter plot, so let me drag it below. I'm going to put it below. Again, I'm going to change the title so we will not get confused. Let us do the same with our axis titles. Let us put some axis title. Let us click on the graph, and then under design, let us add element. So axis titles, let's provide for the primary horizontal axis. Let us name this one still Math 21 grade. For our vertical axis, let's name that as Senior High School GWA. And then let us do the same. Let's get rid of the impossible grades 0 to between 0 and 1. How do we do that again? Let's double click on this axis. It will prompt our editing area here, format chart area, and if we click it again here, it will show this option, the bar graph like option. If we click on it, we have different options, but we want axis options. We can set our minimum as 1.0. You can also do this in your vertical axis if you want to edit something on it. So for example, if we click on it, it will let us edit on the minimum and maximum values of our x-axis. For now, I am good with this one. Let me change the color first so as to make it the same with the ones above. Okay, there we have it, our second scatter plot. For the third graph, let me quickly build it. Alright, there we have it, our scatter plots, our three scatter plots for the three pairings of our variables. Let's try to give a very quick interpretation of the different scatter plots. So, based on the three scatter plots, which of the variables do you think are correlated? Do you think it's between Math 21 grade and BSU 80 scores? Or between Math 21 grade and Senior High School grade? Or between the BSU 80 scores and the Senior High School GWA? So we can see that in the second scatter plot, we can observe a linear trend between the variables. So it's between Senior High School grade and Math 21 grade. It seems that while your Senior High School GWA is going down, your Math 21 grade is also going, in the context of BSU, is going down because your grade is increasing, and a higher grade means a lower performance. So there's a relationship between the two variables. How about the first one? It doesn't seem to tell us that the two variables are related. This is between Math 21 and BSU 80 scores. This is okay, but not as good as the second scatter plot. Now, how do we interpret this one? We can say that between the BSU 80 test score and senior high school general weighted average, it seems that senior high school general weighted average is more related to their performance in one of their college subject, Math 21, than the scores that they got under the BSU admission test scores. So by using a scatter plot, we can immediately assess whether the two variables are related. Let's have the next example. This is, I believe, the last one. This is a data on the temperature of Baguio City, La Trinidad, and Atok for the last 11 days. So we have three variables: the temperature of Baguio City, temperature of La Trinidad, and temperature of Atok. The most appropriate graph for this one, since our first column is time, it's not bar graph but a line graph. The steps are just the same. We highlight our data, including of course the headings, and then we go to this menu bar and then look for our line graph. Now, where is our line graph? It's actually here. Insert line or area chart. Let's click on that and it gives us a different option. We have 2D lines, 3D lines. I want this one, line with markers. Line with markers, not stacked line. We do not want yet stacked lines. We want lines with markers. So this is our line graph. First, we put a title. This is just our initial title, just to give a title. And if we look at our line graph, it already created a separate line graph for each variable. So Excel is treating each column here a variable. The x-axis is already our days, our timestamps. So it starts from day 1 to day 11. And then our vertical axis is our, maybe we can put a legend for this one because it's not obvious. So under design, let's click on the graph, and under design, let's add an element, primary vertical axis. Let us indicate that temperature here is maybe measured in degrees Celsius. Degree Celsius. We can change again the color. So we can change the color, the design. Let's focus more on how we interpret this one. Based on this data, we can immediately realize that Atok had the lowest temperature when we compare the three neighboring city or municipality. And then followed by, what's the blue one, is Baguio City. And the hottest so far, so we are discussing in a general manner, the highest temperatures happened in La Trinidad. In day 4, it was hottest in La Trinidad. It went up to 19 degrees Celsius. While in Atok, it was coldest in day 10. There you have it. This is how we build your different charts using Excel. Thank you for listening.